world we live in today is completely different than it was 30 years ago. Not only is it more dangerous in the sense that weapons have become more efficiently destructive than ever, but it is also more capable of change because of the vast network that technology has given us to communicate on a global scale. In the past, the greatest strides towards eliminating violent human conflict have not been laws that help bring justice in court, nor government prosecution of those who threaten peace. It is the people who not only promote, but demonstrate how to live with peace that influence generations to make a change for the better. They say to stop violence, but I believe we should promote peace. A system that is set up to enforce justice on those who are violent is necessary, but it is not a solution. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate because only love can do that." If a single person lives a committed life of peace and was public about his or her deliberate choice to never resort to violence, this positive message would strongly influence people around him or her to copy their actions. We would see tremendous progress towards peace if these messages of coexistence were constantly on display in our world. The greatest revolutions in human rights have been led by people who share this same message. Martin Luther King Jr. not only played a huge role in diminishing racism in America, but he also showed his generation, as well as all future generations, that settling a disagreement and even starting a revolution can be successfully achieved without using violence, but rather by promoting a peaceful solution. Politicians are the ones who need to adopt this frame of mind the most. In the United States, the movement towards peace is basically a war on violence and crime. Much of our foreign policy is based on our fear to be vulnerable. We are at a point where 8 countries have nuclear weapons and 5 pose a potential threat to the US. It is not only unethical, but also unwise to enforce power or policy using brute force. We need to take a different approach and fight for common ground even if it takes time. Nelson Mandela, the past president of South Africa, who was oppressed by racism until he came to power, did not use his power to harm those who had put him in jail, not even those who were blinded by racism and objected his presidency. But rather, he reasoned and tried to eliminate racism in South Africa by setting an example of coexistence himself. He believed, if you want to make peace with your enemy, you have to work with your enemy, then he becomes your partner. Using peaceful policies, Nelson Mandela was able to make South Africa the most democratic country in Africa. We can learn a lot from these figures who have changed the world using peaceful methods, and should work harder to keep their message not only alive, but thriving and growing for our future generations. They say that stopping violence is the answer, but I believe we need to promote peace to make a real difference.